If you're wondering whether to read The Frozen Player Returns, here's our no spoiler take in under 60 seconds. Plot: 8 out of 10, elevator, floors, and a frozen hero with unfinished business. Characters: 7.5 out of 10. Seo Jun-Ho slays. The rest, trying their best. Writing style: 8.5 out of 10. Smooth pacing and translator editor wizardry. Binge worthy. World building: 7.5 out of 10. Familiar but fresh enough to keep things interesting. Originality: 7.5 out of 10. Not quite Steve Rogers, but the Frost Queen's here too. Pacing: 7 out of 10. Starts hot, ends fast. Some bumps, but you'll ride it out. Quirkiness: 7 out of 10. Chibi Frost Queens. Cockroach arc, never a dull moment. Final score: 7.6 out of 10. A dependable comfort read with flashes of brilliance, familiar but in all the right ways. Welcome to Wuxiaworld's Teahouse Season 2. I'm your host, Yoj.
And I'm Toki.
Today we're reviewing The Frozen Player Returns, a Korean action fantasy authored by Jerry M.
And before we get straight into critiquing the novels like the critical critiquers that we are, let's summarize it real quick. Here we go. We have a main character who fights bosses to save the Earth.
Is that it?
Yes, it's a 10 out of 10 summary.
Okay, isn't that too short? Like, can you give a proper summary at least?
God, you're like the naggy literature teacher. Fine. Okay, so the Frozen Player Return focuses on our Frozen main character, Seo Jun-Ho, who fights and wins against the Frost Queen to save the Earth. However, their victory comes at a price, and they are encased in ice. But, that's the prologue of the whole novel, since our main character, Seo Jun-Ho, is released from the ice, don't ask me how, I forgot, about 25 years later, and returns as a player once he sees that much hasn't changed for Earth.
Whoa, calm down. I mean, don't tell them. I know I asked for a longer summary, but like, don't tell them the entire thing, okay?
Okay, let me just wrap it up then. I don't want to leave them hanging like that. To wrap it up, the novel then focuses on the different trials Juno faces on the different floors.
Okay, let's move on to reviewing before Yoj spends the next 30 minutes summarizing the entire novel.
That's what a summary is, okay?
Alright. Plot. So Yoj managed to explain the title of the novel in her summary, but Frozen Player returns because our main character Seo Jun-Ho is a player who was frozen but then returns 25 years later as a player again. Now, for this review, it will only be the two of us, so we'll see whether we agree or come to fights over the scores or yeah, Yoj, what do you give the plot?
A solid 8 out of 10. It's a typical tower story, except that it's called Dimensional Elevator here. But I really liked a couple scenes, especially the ones where people found out that the badass player was actually our main character, Juno. And I tried to go back and find that particular arc so I could reread it, but fortunately I couldn't find it, so I'm sad.
Then why don't you reread the whole thing?
Dude, it's 642 chapters, okay? As much as I like reading, I don't know if I want to spend all my time reading novels on Wuxiaworld.
Well, what else are you gonna do? Like, your granny hobbies?
I really feel like you're bullying me and we're just beginning, okay? You can't be like Juno and bullying my favorite character, Junsu, okay? So tell us your score instead of being a bully.
I gave it an 8 too, because the storyline is solid, for sure. There were parts where I think it could have been better, but overall it's a nice, solid story. I definitely would read it, especially with the theme of loyalty and comradeship.
Okay, we're off to a great start then. I have high hopes for this review. Let's see if it continues with our next category, characters.
Sorry to dash your hopes. I gave it a 7.
Oh. I mean,
I think it's sort of obvious by now, but I like having multiple characters having their own lore, background, rather than just being sidekicks for the MC's growth. I think the main character of Frozen Player Return is quite well written, but 3-point shade for lack of depth on others.
wait, Wait, what? The other characters had depth. What are you talking about?
I mean, I know they had their own story and all, but it wasn't really enough for me. It was like all roads lead to Rome, you know? They had their own story, but then at the end of the day, it kind of points back to the MC.
I don't know if I agree with you there, because, like, yeah, some of the characters for Frozen Player Returns were one-dimensional, but if I'm being dead honest, I'm reading a web novel for the main character. Like, even some of William Shakespeare's plays have flat-sided main characters, okay? And as silly as this might be, I love a guy character who's cold in public but has a playful side, you know?
Okay, hold your horses. This is a web novel, not a K-drama, okay?
Do you know how many web novels get adapted into K-dramas now? It could happen. Seo Jun-Ho could be a character in a K-drama now. It could happen.
Okay, moving on to writing style. I'm gonna ignore that. I give it an 8. Not much to say, just that it's nice and solid. Not to mention the translator and editor did a solid job too, which is difficult if you think about it, because there were 3 translators for this. Caster, Sangwoo, and Ristretto. Villa did an amazing job juggling 3 different writing translating styles, so kudos to her.
Yeah, Vila is really amazing. She's always my go-to when I have like a pack of translators on one novel. The way she manages them, ooh, it's amazing.
Pack, not team. I'm suddenly reminded of Owen taming a pack of dinos in Jurassic World.
I mean, honestly, sometimes it feels like that, except they're less feral. They're a pack.
Okay. Let's stop calling them out before they come after you. Give me your sword.
They love me, okay? They wouldn't. They love me.
Are you sure about that?
Yes. They love me. Anyways, I give writing style a 9. Like, I'm easy, okay? As long as the storyline is interesting and the writing doesn't give me a headache, it's a 9 for me.
Yeah. We can move on. Let's move on.
Okay, originality. What do you give for this?
I gave this an 8 as well. I was quite satisfied with the world Frozen Player Returns built, not to mention the unique twist on the typical isekai genre. Like, instead of dumping the MC into another world or having him travel back time, we have Seo Jun-Ho in the original world, but one that's drastically changed because it's 25 years in the future, right?
I have it as a 7. It's like, yeah, sure, we have the Frozen player who comes back in time of humanity's need, but let's be honest, that's basically Captain America, except it's in the form of a tower dungeon fantasy story. And if we didn't have the main character who's frozen and the adorable chibi Frost Queen, the novel would have been like, it would blend in with the other tower stories.
Are you really comparing Seo Jun-Ho to Steve Rogers?
I mean, at the base of it, they're both frozen and then they get melted and they have a hero side and a normal person side, right? And they fight bad guys. I stand by what I said. They're basically the same.
Okay. You dumbed it down quite a bit, but I'll give it to you, okay?
I'm not wrong. Anyways, let's move on before you poke holes into my reasoning. Pacing. Okay. Sorry, but I gave this one a 6. Personally, I felt like the ending was rushed. It started very strong and seemed to be building momentum towards like a great climax, but then it fizzled, Considering the start and the middle of the novel, the ending just felt a bit flat for me.
Okay. I personally really liked the pacing and I gave it an 8. It wasn't too draggy or too fast. I guess we look at it differently. The ending does feel rushed, but I wouldn't say it was bad. I thought it was satisfying, wrapped up all loose ends, didn't leave me going like guessing. Yeah, that's it.
I guess that's true. Frozen Player Returns did end nicely with no loose ends. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Okay, so the last section, quirkiness. This was a 6 for me. I'm not sure what others would think, but it wasn't quirky enough for me. Then again, my definition of quirk might be a bit too much, right? It's probably better to call it kink.
Yeah, maybe. Your second? I don't know. Your novel really messed you up there. Like every time I review a novel, I really struggle between originality and quirkiness. Like, I always struggle.
Do we need to go over the criteria once again?
No. I mean, I decided if there's a couple eye-catching things that makes me question the author, I'm gonna add that into the quirky category. Yeah, that's how I'm gonna roll it.
So, what's your score on this?
8. The author had like an entire arc on cockroaches. Okay, it was disgusting. It made me flinch every time I saw something in the corner of my eye. I'm questioning the author is quirky.
Doesn't that remind you of our would you rather question? Like,
You know,
would
that
you
did
rather
cross my
fight
mind.
a 3-meter cockroach or
And
101
I don't know, like, who
millimeter?
came up with that question? It was Cozy, right? Maybe she
Yeah,
read
it
this
was
arc
Cozy.
because there really was like one massive cockroach, I think, and like little mini cockroaches everywhere in the entire story, if I'm remembering this correctly. Or there were just tons of little mini cockroaches everywhere. But yeah, nightmares.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
Then that brings us to a final score of 7.6 out of 10.
Let's round that up to 8 out of 10 because Frozen Player Returns has a solid storyline and it's a comfort read. So round it up, 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, it's a comfort read if you leave out the cockroach bit, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely that. I'll leave that out.
Well, hopefully our next review is less nightmare-inducing. Till next time. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Wuxiaworld's Teahouse. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the follow button to stay updated with our latest releases. If you want more tea, hop over to our social media or Discord and send us an email if you want to spill the tea. We'll be back every Friday of each month, so check out our website, wuxiaworld.com. See you next episode. Bye!